give this video a like and subscribe!
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame. Naturally, this is where we start talking about women, where we are going to be looking at an article from The Atlantic that is discussing that, yes, it's true that men are struggling, but have we considered women have it worse? So we're at the stage now where they're not ignoring men's problems. They're just saying, yeah, sure, that's bad. But women, though.
But women, yeah. You know, men, homelessness, depression, drug abuse,
suicide,
not
but
finishing
women,
high.
They get air conditioning is really high, and there's
also,
problems with catcalling.
Also, they have pressures. You know, like work.
They can't find a seat on the bus.
Well, they don't even taking the bus. They can't. They can't find a place to park their Lamborghini. Like you know, it's real. These are real issues. Real issues. Oh man. Okay, so if at any point throughout the show you want to send us a message, please do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way for you to send us funds, and the very best way for you to send us a comment with those funds if you so wish. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And we are doing our monthly fundraiser at feedthebadger.com/support. So if you are interested in supporting this content, please do help us out there. All right, let's you want to just start? Let's look at this article from The Atlantic. All right. The title is Young Men Aren't the Only Ones Struggling. I put a link to this in the description, archived, because you have to pay to read this tripe. Yeah,
if you don't have the archive link. So
don't pay.
Women, what was that?
I said do not pay for this.
No. Women might be having an even harder time by Faith Hill. Probably not the same Faith Hill as the 90s. I think she was a country singer or something. Okay. Oh my God, it's one of these. It's like a narrative. On a sunny Monday last November, I filed into a single large room in Washington, D.C. There I saw a crowd of older white men wearing crisp suits and shaking hands. A few women were sprinkled among them. This was the Symposium on Young American Men, where politicians, researchers, nonprofit leaders, higher education administrators, and journalists had gathered to discuss what they agreed was a troubled and downtrodden population. The question was, what to do about it? All right, so she was in a place that was all men. That was the first mistake. But anyway, the plight of young men has, for some years now, been a cause of public concern. Recently, the din of alarm bells seems louder than ever. Men are attending and graduating from college at rates lower than in the past and lower than women. Large shares of working-age men, especially young ones, are unemployed. Jarring numbers are dying deaths of despair, a term coined by the economists Ann Case and Angus Deaton to describe mortality due to suicide, overdose, or alcoholic liver disease.
Okay. All right. So why don't we catalog here, just for the sake of, just for the sake of completion. Okay. How many things are happening to men? I'm hearing deaths of despair. All right. They are not graduating from college. And it's going down, which is probably a good thing, because college is useless. Jarring numbers are deaths of despair. Okay, so a liver disease, suicide, overdose. Suicide, deaths of despair. Okay. So we're dealing with large rates of unemployment, homelessness, no services for when men are in need, no real psychological services. Well, really, whatever men would need to support themselves and in those circumstances, and also deaths of despair and suicide. That's quite a dire list, wouldn't you say, Brian? That's
pretty dire, and I don't think it's exhaustive enough either, because
no, it's not.
There are men who simply like they just sort of like stop trying, and so they don't, and they're not necessarily, you know, taking their own life or destroying themselves actively by drinking or doing drugs, but maybe they're destroying themselves slowly by, like, you know, they don't leave the house anymore. They do the bare minimum at their job if they even have one. They, you know, they maybe they just start wandering the earth, you know, like they do other things, right? But that doesn't even get included in this, you know.
Mm-mm.
Men who just sort of like mentally check out. I'm not saying men who make a conscious choice to live off the grid. I mean, like, the guys who are just like, everything is pointless. I'm just going to allow myself to waste away, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but what I'm pointing out is that this list is really quite.
It's dire.
It's dire. Yeah. It's really dire. This is a dire list that she's making about things that affect men. And now she's, subsequent to making this dire list, she's going to be making the argument that we should focus on women. Okay? That men don't have it worse, right? Even though this is a very dire list, one wonders how much worse it could get, other than maybe active conscription, right? Or, you know, having something like during the Great Depression where men were gang pressed into doing labor for the state, you know, that kind of thing. But it's pretty dire list. And now we're going to go into, well, I don't know how long she's going to linger in this list, but I know that we are eventually going to go into her thesis, which is that women have it worse, because of course. So let's see how she does
All
that.
right.
I mean, seriously, we need to start having numbers for these kinds of gymnastics.
Yeah.
Let's see, guys, we're going to be scoring her. I've just decided this right now. We're going to score her on her mental gymnastics. Just hold in mind her starting position. This list, this dire list of things affecting men that men are dealing with right now. A list so dire, you sometimes wonder, well, could it be worse? Probably not, unless there was active conscription. So just keep this in mind, because this is where she's starting. And now we're going to go through the gymnastics routine, and you know where she's going to land, right? You know, It's going to be women have it worse. And why aren't we paying attention to women? So let's see how she manages this, because this could be exceptionally. What's the word?
Yeah, let's
exceptional.
Do it. Okay. In response to all of this dire stuff that men are dealing with, a mini industry of experts has sought to explain what's going on. Richard V. Reeves, a social scientist and author of Boys and Men, created the think tank, the American Institute for Boys and Men. The New York University marketing professor Scott Galloway wrote the book Notes on Being a Man, and on podcasts speaks regularly about modern manhood. Along with an abundance of other commentators, they've lamented what men have lost their sense of purpose and identity. With the decline of manufacturing and other male-dominated industries, the rise of toxic masculinity critiques, and the difficulty of being a breadwinner when everything costs so much, they argue, young men no longer know how to behave or what to reach for. All right, can I just really quick come in here? I know Scott Galloway. He is not a men's advocate. That like, he is a male feminist wearing the mask of a men's advocate that is telling men to get back on the plantation anyway. I'm just letting you know. I've seen him, because, you know, he is like the safe kind of men's advocate. He's like the kind that's feminist, basically. You know,
Not like us.
the kind that Nick Redding accuses us of being. That's what he is. And he gets, but because of that, because he has that sort of like feminist friendly, you know, men's issues advocacy mask, he gets to go on all the big podcasts. I saw him on Trigonometry. I saw him on all the big ones, all the big centrist podcasts that are totally doing it right, the enlightened ones. And I can't stand this guy. I'm just letting you, I can't stand this guy, because he is not helping men at all. He is not addressing the truth. And it always comes back to, how can I help men so that they are better able to support women? Because that's all it is. It's not about men for their own sake. It's not even about masculinity. So I know that about Scott Galloway for sure. I just don't know who Richard V. Reeves is, but the name is familiar. So I'm going to look this up really quick.
And I will give you my thoughts on this.
All right, go
All
ahead.
right. So yes, these are the people who talk about men's issues, but they don't want to do anything about them, or rather, they don't want to change anything. They want to solve the problem, maybe, as long as they don't have to change anything, right? As long as nothing has to change. So the answer is they don't care about men's issues at all.
Yes.
Because if you are going to prioritize feminism, hell, if you're going to prioritize any ism over helping men, then or you are going to say that you help men by helping this other thing that is not men first, then you aren't interested in helping men. What you're interested in doing is advancing the other thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Brian.
All right, but anyway, so yeah, like, so basically this annoys me because this person brings up Scott Galloway and Richard V. Reeves, who also make similar kinds of like books and makes appearances, as though they are like the unacceptable opposition. They're not necessarily unacceptable, but they're like let's say they're an opposition that they find a necessary evil. So like this position is like, well, it's a little distasteful. I mean, they're trying to help men, but I'm not a big fan. But I guess we'll talk about what they've said. And what they use these guys for, they're like controlled opposition, basically. Like they're like this is the Scott Galloway is the male side of the conversation, even though he's literally just like, get back on the plantation, guys. Stop complaining. Nobody's gonna help you.
Well, but men have a role picking cotton. That's pro male.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anyway. Okay. By many measures, they're right. Young men as a population, by many measures is basically saying, well, I got to give them some credit, but it's still a man with an opinion.
That's where they're at. They and this is something that I've mentioned for years now. They concede the entirety of the point, and now they're like, well, let me lay out my sophistry for why we don't have to care.
Yep.
Let
Young men as a population are struggling more than they used to, but sometimes that point gets twisted into a different argument, that young men are struggling more than young women. Women tend to be present only as a comparison. They're the ones who are more likely to attend college or to lean on close friends, less likely to depend on drugs or alcohol or drop out of high school. They're symbols of success used to make a point. The problem is that, in a number of ways, young women are actually doing worse than men. So we didn't waste that much time getting right to it, didn't we?
No, we just teleported to the, I don't know. We're just like, we're not even bothering anymore, guys. I don't know how to score this. I mean, on a metaphysical level, it's instantaneous. She didn't even bother. She didn't even bother any kind of acrobatics. So that's where we are, guys. Probably because there are none now. There are no acrobatics to go from this dire list to women have it worse anymore. So they just have to teleport. They're just like, oh, well, you just do the work yourselves to put in the intervening steps. There we go.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Yes, I do read the chat, or we read the chat.
I'll read the chat. You read the article.
Read the chat. Okay.
You guys, if you're in the chat, say interesting things. And if you really want us to attend to your commentary, send it feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Do it.
Do it.
And we will comment.
Do it now. Okay. Right. So yeah, so we got to understand that women have it worse. Okay. So the fact that this has been obscured, that women themselves have been obscured in this conversation, says a lot about who gets prioritized in American culture and how misguided our understanding of human flourishing is in the first place. What? So women have been obscured in this conversation, according to this author. And it says a lot about who gets prioritized in American culture and how misguided our understanding of human flourishing is in the first place. Wow. Okay. First, consider some facts. Oh, here we go.
Go wait. Actually, I want to go back to this. Like, human flourishing requires not dying, lady. Isn't that like the basic step to human flourishing? Like, she's not even bothering. It's just like, yeah, all these things happen to men. Men are dying, but have you considered that women aren't flourishing? And also, why are we paying attention to men dying when women aren't flourishing? Don't you realize that means that women are never paid attention to because they aren't being paid attention to in this instance when women are dying? Good Lord. Didn't even the complete absence of gymnastics. I don't even know how to score that. Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
All right. So anyway, yeah, enough about the men. Let's talk about women now. First, consider some facts. Women have long been more likely than men to report experiencing depression and anxiety. Key word, more likely to report experiencing. That doesn't mean they have it. It means that they're sad and they call it depression sometimes, and anxiety. That gap, though it could be attributed partly to differences in how likely men and women are to admit their symptoms in studies, has remained persistent and pronounced. No. It could also depend on whether or not what they think they're experiencing is actually being experienced. It could also depend on whether or not what they're experiencing is being diagnosed as depression or anxiety, right? Like, how do we determine that? Just because women feel sad doesn't mean that they're absolutely on death's door suicidal. So it just means they're sad. Like, I get sad, but I don't cry about it. I just move on. Whatever. Yeah. Anyway. And more recently, those rates have been climbing for women in the United States and elsewhere. Yeah, well, that's because you're on SSRIs. In one 2024 study, researchers found that across 34 countries in several different measures of well-being, including fear and anxiety, suicidality, and feelings of overwhelm, mental health was worse for women than for men. And although more men than women die by suicide, women are significantly more likely to attempt it. Yes, that old chestnut.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say anything about that?
If you include attempts and actually succeeding, then men do it more. And also
men are better at that too.
The thing is that most completed suicides involve more attempts prior. So when they say that men don't attempt as much, what they mean is nobody catches them at that point. Right? So every male suicide probably involved, I think, an average of 7 attempts or 7 like rehearsing, but they don't get caught at that point. So if you actually include that, then men probably attempt suicide order of magnitude more often than women. It's just that nobody notices. So this is a complete nonsense statistic.
You can't really determine it anyways, because like you said, like it's how many times do they attempt to succeed? When a woman attempts it, how do we know it's not just a cry for help, which it often is, and not actually a suicide, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah, so this is like what she's saying is, oh yes, men are dying, but women are
thinking about dying
more often in the pipeway to dying. Therefore, women have it worse, and also women report more mental health symptoms. Therefore, women have it worse, even though the mental health industry is arranged for women and processes emotions in a very female-centric modality. So it's and that doesn't evidence, like, the fact that there are so many more men dying deaths of despair isn't evidence that maybe the mental health industry isn't serving them. So not only are they dying deaths of despair, they have an industry that is supposed to prevent it and isn't actually engaging when the person dealing with it is a man. So, I mean, the evidence that she's presenting does not indicate that women have it worse. It could very well indicate that women are more served by the industry or the services that prevent these kinds of deaths of despair. And that's why they show up more prior to it happening, and men show up more after it has happened. But she's going to go with this really means that women have it worse. And, you know, it might be that women are really miserable.
Yep.
That could be too. But that
isn't
the same as what's happening to men.
I mean, it may be that they are. And I think that there's some evidence to show women are more unhappy, but it's not because of men. It's because of feminism. So,
yeah.
But what I was going to say is the other thing too is, and I don't know how they came up to these numbers. So when you don't really have access to like reliable data, which a lot of the data is not reliable, then you have to just use logic instead. And so I think of it like this: if a single woman attempts suicide like 10 times, never does it, right? Then that counts as 10 suicide attempts on one person. But if one man commits suicide one time, which you can only do it one time, that only counts as one suicide. So you could, if you weren't looking at like the context that I just described, you could look at 10 attempts as worse than one success. So, you know, like, and that's what it is. Like, ultimately, men don't attempt suicide, they just do it. Women attempt, which often means, again, I think in many cases, if not most, but there's no way of knowing because nobody wants to study it in this context, it's probably just a cry for help. Because like it wouldn't serve the people who conduct the studies, i.e. feminists, sociologists, and academics and psychologist types, to actually consider that women's attempts are just cries for help. So they wouldn't do a study on how often that is. But we know that is. Like I've known, well, I knew a girl who I dated for a while, unfortunately, that had like this, she was crazy and committed, like didn't commit, but she would, you know, claim she would cut herself and she would take pills, but like nothing would happen because she wouldn't ever like follow through. It was just to get the attention and sympathy from her mother. And that was like, so it had nothing to do with her actually doing anything, just threatening to do stuff so that her mother would come running. And they would count that as suicide attempts, even though I knew that she wasn't really suicidal. You see what I'm saying? So, all right, anyway. The discrepancy comes in large part from men being likelier to choose more lethal means, such as firearms. At one point in the symposium on young American men, one of the few female panelists, oh my God, why even invite them, named a statistic about suicidal thoughts among young men, then, as if in parentheses, added that the rate was even higher for women. The comment hung in the air, but the speaker and the conference moved on. And this is why I'm saying the symposium for young American men is not actually interested in men, because the woman still had to do a land acknowledgement. She had to say, just so you guys know, women do attempt it more. That, like, she had to do that instead of just saying this is a problem. Like, it's almost like if something is brought up as a problem that men face, if you bring up women also face it, then the original like statement that men have this problem just vanishes, because all of a sudden we're not talking about that anymore. It's not important now. So no one's ever going to do anything about it. Not at these symposiums and these think tanks, because if they took it really seriously, they know that their jobs would be on the line. They would lose their jobs as like forever, you know, forever women worsting social like scientists. Like that would be the end of it, because then they wouldn't have anything that they could like that well where the money comes out when you just say women are having it worse here, let's do a study. Women have it worse here, let's do a study. That would dry up, because all of a sudden it would be like you know, either no longer a gender issue, or you'd have to address the male part. And the thing is, with the male side of this, you can't turn it into an endless money printing machine, because men are not the type to dwell on that. They just want it fixed, right? They're just like, well, you know, open up whatever so I can like get a job and a house and a wife. And that you can't talk about that forever. So anyway. All right. So where was I? I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but the speaker of the conference moved on. So the idea that women are thriving, at least relative to men, seems to stem largely from their academic dominance. In a 2024 analysis, Pew Research Center found that 47% of women have a bachelor's degree compared to 37% of men. The gap is referenced in pretty much any conversation about the crisis of masculinity. But all the striving for accomplishment may cost women a great deal. When researchers with the Harvard Graduate School of Education surveyed roughly 700 adults ages 18 to 25 in 2022, they found that women were significantly more likely to report dealing with achievement pressure. More than 60% of female respondents said the weight of that pressure was negatively affecting them. Women also happen to hold about 2/3 of America's student loan debt. Okay. Do you want to say anything about that?
The fact that because they hold 2/3 of the degrees now. All right, they're going to hold a lot of the debt as well. And what is this? Because ambition, because now women can pursue their ambitions. So the pressure to pursue their ambitions is the thing we need to focus on, not the fact that men are openly discriminated against in education and job opportunities. And when men fail to live up to the pressure, like here's the thing, women have career pressure, men have life pressure. So when men fail to live up to the expectations of taking care of themselves, they end up homeless more often than women do. So I don't even know what the heck she's talking about. Oh, women have pressure to achieve in their careers. Oh, yes, that's having a career, right? That's like it's like saying, oh, I ate Thanksgiving dinner and now my stomach is full. I have so many things that I have to deal with as a woman. It's a consequence of your choice, right? This is like what men are dealing with are consequences of choices made for them. Like how they're supposed to be, how they're spoken about in the greater world by the media, by academia, by NGOs, by the government. That's not their choice. This is the choice of a bunch of ideologues that explicitly said that they were going to frame men and women and the relationship between them in a way that benefited those ideologues' bottom line, their clout and their money. And the men had no say in that. Right? So that's something that's being put on them. They have no say in the fact that they're discriminated against when it comes to scholarships, or they're marked down because they're men by female teachers mostly. You know, they don't have any say in that. They don't have any say in being discriminated against for job opportunities. And they really don't have any say in their mental health issues. I'm sorry, they don't. People think that mental health is something you can choose. I mean, it's something that you can improve your habits to make better, but it's not something you choose. Nobody wakes up and says, you know, I could really use some depression in my life. How about a random panic attack? Yeah, that sounds like a great thing. Nobody does that. So all of these things are things that men don't choose. And she is focusing on the consequences of a good thing that women are allowed to choose, encouraged to choose, and artificially given more advantages to choose. Like, and again, remember we were situating in our mind that kind of those deaths of despair and all the dire stuff she taught. This is what she thinks compares.
Yep. Men are dying of suicide. Women are pressured to achieve.
Yeah.
In college.
All of those women, you know,
men are overdosing on drugs and getting liver disease from alcohol. Women have to figure out which man is going to help pay for their student loans.
Women are.
It's hard out there, ladies. It's hard.
You don't understand. You don't understand. This woman in her avocado Joe's job, she was told by her boss she has to do 4 emails a day, not just 3. It's very difficult. The pressure. Oh, good Lord. And the funny thing is that even like what I'm trying to get at is no matter how much pressure women have supposedly in their careers and their jobs to achieve, they don't have the same amount of pressure as men do, because men know that they're not reproductively viable unless they have a good job. They know that they're far more likely to end up on the street if they don't have a job that pays the bills. That's a lot more pressure than what's on women. So even what she's saying is false. Yep. On its face, logically. Okay. Let's do some more.
So, so women make up 2/3 of American student loan debt, which is probably a sign that women shouldn't be like going to college if they're not going to make use of the degree to pay off the debt. But whatever. I guess we're not going to have that conversation. We should just blame it on late stage capitalism instead. That effort and expense doesn't always pay off. A woman with a bachelor's degree earns about the same on average as a man with an associate's degree. Oh, we're going to do this now. More wage gap. A man with a bachelor's degree makes more on average than a woman with the same education level, even within the same field of study. Meg Jay, a clinical psychologist specializing in young adulthood and the author of The 20-Something Treatment, told me a lot of her female clients work themselves ragged in college, expecting that it will translate into career success. But when they arrive in the workforce, it's a little bit of an unwelcome shock, rather. These women look around their companies and see that men occupy most of the leadership positions, or begin to realize that the high-paying fields are the male-dominated ones. Well, maybe because those guys earned it. Like, what? Why is that a problem? I got my new job at the law firm, and would you believe it? There are men there, and some of them have higher positions than me. Because that's another thing, is that she says, you know, most of the leadership positions are occupied by the men. Okay, yeah, maybe. What about the I don't know, what about the interns? What about the janitors? What about the security guards? What about the guy who runs the front desk and says hello to people? What about the elevator operator? Do they still have elevator operators? I don't know. What about the guys at the bottom? How many of those guys are those men? Did you notice that those were also men? Mm-hmm. Isn't it weird that they're not going on like the Atlantic and complaining that they're not like that they're working as janitors or whatever, garbage men, sewer workers, electricians?
Yeah, they're not even bothering. Like, they're not even bothering to make.
No, those guys don't exist.
Those causal relationship between, oh, men exist in the workplace and they obviously make more than me because of discrimination. There's not even any attempt to get evidence of this. And it's probably not true, because the big push now is to create this schism between the men who are actually producing things and the corporate structure that exists on top of them. And the reason why all the men are going into contractor positions. This is something that Karen used to talk about a lot back before her daughter got so severely ill. You know, she would talk about how her husband has no option to become an employee. He was a permanent contractor where he was. And I'm like looking at the mining industry. Did you know that mining companies don't actually mine? They're just a bunch of corporate HR and PR avocado toast jobs sitting on a layer of men who are actually doing the work, but they're contractors, so they're not even employed by them. And that's how they're getting we've increased the amount of women in mining by X amount. Yeah, by forcing men out into contractor positions so they're off the employee roles, right? This is the situation men are in. They can't even get employment in a lot of these places because of the DEI hiring quotas. So you can make this bald-faced assertion, but if you have nothing to back it, then it's just you fantasizing about discrimination. Is there anything backing this assertion that she's made about women going into the workplace and discovering there are men in it? Is she sure? Brian?
Yeah. I got a super chat from Senior Sticks. Thank you, Senior Sticks. He gives us $2 and says, "It seems women are tortured by choice and freedom." Yeah, it's like, I think that a lot of women, if they thought that they could just like not have to think about those things, they might be happier. And I'm, you know, I'm just thinking that more and more. You know, if women could just be like, I just want to, you know, have my little world where I'm doing my thing, whatever it is, and everything else, the world itself on the wider scale, the people on the perimeter I just take trust that they're taking care of it. But I think that women are put into a state of anxiety and fear by education and propaganda 24/7, which is why they say they're experiencing it. But then that same system that's propagandizing them is telling that it's men's fault. Like, so when they say they have like pressure to excel in college, it's like, yeah, but who's doing that? It's not men. Men literally don't care how much money you make. They don't. Like, you know, so where is that coming from?
Because they
And
say that
it's
that's a problem if men don't care about women's achievements. But then
yeah,
they
it is.
say
It is. It's
if women
absolutely
have
right.
pressure to
They
achieve,
should care, and the fact that they don't is worse, right? That's also,
yeah, but you see
bad for
what I'm saying?
women.
Like if men care, then they're putting pressure on women to achieve, which is oppression. But if men don't care, then they're afraid of a strong woman. So which is it? Like,
Yeah,
I know what it is. Everything just lands on blaming
like
men. Okay.
Mangaka said in the Rumble chat, he said, wasn't she just bitching about how much pressure women are experiencing, and now she's complaining the positions with too much pressure are going to men? But you don't understand. She wants to be able to live in a world where she has no pressure, but she gets all the high positions. It's really simple. She wants to have the high flying position. She just doesn't want to feel any pressure to earn it, and she doesn't think men should have it. That's all. Can't you see? Can you see how simple that is?
Oh, she says these women look around in their companies and see that men occupy most of the leadership positions. Not if you're middle management. That's mostly occupied by women. And yes, men occupy higher positions, but those
You
higher
just me
positions.
too the company you work at, and then you can make sure you have a bunch of women there. Just me too the whole company. It's worked for in many cases.
Yeah.
So
We've actually seen entire industries
just
me
write an
too.
open letter. You don't have to like prove anything. You can just say, these people made me uncomfortable. Here's
The
the list,
penis
guys.
people need to go. They make
Yeah,
me
they need to
uncomfortable because
go. These men are unsafe.
they smell.
Yep. Give me the ick. These guys are all on the ick list. All right. Anyway, she mentioned one woman who decided to go to graduate school because she believed that it was the only place where women could be on equal footing with men. She's hoping to kind of take shelter in that, Jay told me, but most people can't stay in school forever. So why do you need to be on equal footing with men? Can't you just I don't know, be a better version of yourself? Like, why are you concerned with what the other guy's doing? I don't know.
I'm baffled by that last sentence, but most people can't stay in school forever. It's
I
like
wish I could, though. Yeah.
It's so juvenile. Right? It's like ladies, you wanted to go to the edge, right? And be part of the load-bearing infrastructure of society. Except now that you're sort of there, you don't want to bear any load. This is why patriarchy seems to be the only durable social system. There, I said it.
Wow. Based. All right, Alvin. Let's go. All right. I quit. Let's go. No, I'm sorry. My work here is done.
I'm not using the term patriarchy.
No, not in the feminist definition. I know.
But
it's just like the real definition, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, men in positions of leadership. That is an observation. It is an observation that even crosses species barriers. I hate to tell you. Most social mammals, the male animals, are in the position of leadership and taking most of the risks when it comes to predators. Okay, so that's sort of it crosses species lines. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah. All right. Young adulthood tends to be a difficult period regardless of gender. It's a time of great uncertainty and high stakes when people undergo a ton of change and are tasked with building a meaningful life from the ground up. And modern life, complete with an affordable housing shortage, a harrowing job market, and collapsing social trust, doesn't make growing up any easier. But in many ways, the world today is especially hostile to women. Do you want to say anything before I move on to the M word?
Every era is the most especially hostile to women, you see.
Yeah. We're in the worst period for women ever now. Right now, today is the worst period. With cell phones and social media and air conditioning and climate control buildings and cushy jobs and abundance. Despite all of the things people complain about, we're still doing really well, especially in the first world. Even now is actually the worst possible time to be a woman. And do you know why? Because manosphere influencers and politicians alike are exploiting young men's vulnerability, stirring resentment against women. Right, because that didn't exist before. Before manosphere influencers and politicians exploited young men's vulnerability, stirring resentment against women, men were just fine in their ignorance, just being used by the system as tax burdens to like just funnel money to women and their causes. When they didn't know that that was happening to them, they were not resentful. So we could go back to that time of blissful ignorance when men didn't know that they were being used. Okay.
Okay. All right. But here, okay, but she's okay. So you're saying now manosphere influencers are creating hostility. But feminism says that patriarchy is hostility against women. So how are manosphere influencers creating something that feminism says always existed?
That's a good question.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right. Gen Z men are less likely than their grandfathers to say they support gender equality. Awesome. The constitutional right to abortion is gone, and funding cuts have further weakened access to reproductive health care, i.e., abortion. Meka Lowe, a Colgate University sociology professor, told me that many of her female students are grieving the loss of bodily autonomy. Their generation grew up watching The Handmaid's Tale, maybe reading it, she said, but now they're living it. Ugh.
No, they are not. Also, the handmaids in The Handmaid's Tale weren't even living it. There was conscription in that society, but nobody talked about it. And how come they never did a story on the women who were just used to clean up toxic waste? How come they didn't get a story? Are you telling me that a lifetime cleaning up toxic waste is somehow better than a lifetime being the brood mayor of, well, who's that guy in Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey?
Christian Grey?
Christian Grey, right? Oh, good Lord. I mean, honestly, The Handmaid's Tale is about a good portion of romance novels, right? Being bred by is a powerful man. Yeah, there you go. And it just so happens that we have to focus on the women who get fed, have cushy lives, and give birth, right? Instead of the women who are picking up toxic waste, or the men who are dying to protect this entire ridiculous system, which incidentally is a dumb system. It is a poorly thought out story. And that's not, and of course, the final nail in the coffin is that the story in the Bible that supposedly gives it all of its legitimacy was a story of a man being sexually exploited by the system and his wives.
Yep.
So in every single level, The Handmaid's Tale fails. It fails really hard. And yet these women still think that it reflects reality because they're dumb. Okay.
Yeah. This fictional book totally agrees with my politics, so I'm going to use it. In a Gallup poll last year, 40% of U.S. female participants aged 15 to 44 said that they would move abroad permanently if given the chance, a number 4 times higher than in 2014, and more than double the share of male respondents who said the same. Yeah, but they're not actually going to do it. They're just like participating in Me Too, like, oh, I would totally do that to fit in type shit. So they're not going to leave. Where are they going to go? Participants were especially likely to dream of migration if they had low confidence in institutions such as the national government, the military, and honest elections, or if they disapproved of current political leadership. Okay, whatever. Women are unhappy, like News at 11. A lot of today's young women were told as little girls they could do anything if they set their mind to. Then they entered adulthood just in time to witness a backlash to the idea of their equal worth, to see the promise of power recede right when they reach for it. Again, men are killing themselves and getting like overdosing on drugs and getting liver disease, according to this person's claims. Like they started
girls,
the article with
Brian, girls are going to college and realizing they can't all be supermodel, astronaut, marine biologists who
Yes.
rule the world as a sparkly princess.
How foolish I was to dare speak, like to minimize women's suffering.
What is this statement here? Oh, but just as the cult. Okay, let me read it again. Let me squirrel upon this monstrosity. Okay. God damn. Many of the women doesn't know what. Okay, all right. Where were we? Go back to that one sentence.
As of today, young women were told as little girls that they could do anything they set their mind to. Then they entered adulthood just in time to witness a backlash of the idea of their equal
you
worth.
can't. People have different talents. Most women are average. Most women are going to get a job maybe as an office manager for Kinko's. I don't know if Kinko's still exists. An office manager for, I don't know, like.
Oh, it's FedEx Kinko's now.
FedEx Kinko's. Like that's the pinnacle of your life, ladies. Maybe you'll get a floor manager of a London Drugs, a drugstore. That's it. What did you expect? Like, oh, you go into work and we thought that we could do it. No.
Sounds like some other fictional stories that you watched growing up lied to you. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, you're not a Disney princess.
Yeah,
and you're not in The Handmaid's Tale either.
No.
So,
and this is for like now we are at the point where she's saying that women growing up and realizing that they're not the protagonist of a young adult novel is comparable to deaths of despair that men are dealing with.
Yeah. Can you imagine if a man was like, I could have sworn I was going to get the sword of power and turn into He-Man and save Eternia from Skeletor. And they're and then they write articles about it. This man is disappointed he didn't get to be the main character of his story. Why? I mean, it's just I have to laugh because we're humoring this.
I know.
We have to humor this.
No, well, we don't. We don't.
No, I mean, but they're writing it like the average person is like humoring.
Oh yeah, so yeah,
eating it up.
I think maybe less and less, but yes, this is what this is. Okay, so far, she has women have to grow up and realize they're not the protagonist of a young adult novel, right? And also The Handmaid's Tale, which doesn't make any sense because women still have more reproductive rights than men. Literally, if men are raped, they're still obligated to child support. It's strict liability for men. They don't have any option.
Even if they're boys.
Even if they're boys, they have no option to remove the expected responsibilities to whatever child they conceive, even if they're raped, even if they're boys being raped. Doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter if it's involuntary. It doesn't matter if she stole the condom out of the trash when you had sex with someone else entirely. You're still on the hook. It's strict liability. Right? That's the reality for men. And this woman has the audacity to say, well, women are thinking of The Handmaid's. Yeah, well, you still, most places that restrict abortion still allow it if you're raped. Right? So you're still doing a hell of a lot better than men. I don't know who you're comparing it to. And men also get conscripted.
Yep.
So far, I'm going to keep track. So far, we have women have more college debt. Women are having restrictions on their access to abortion in some states. In other states, I think they've actually increased their access. Right. And something The Handmaid's Tale, and also women need to learn when they grow up that they're not the protagonist of a young adult
They feel
novel.
pressure to do well.
Oh yeah, and they feel pressure to do well.
Don't leave that out. It's very important.
They feel pressure to achieve.
Yeah.
Now that they have the ability to achieve, they feel pressure to do it. It's not coming from men, mind you, because men don't care, and that's also a problem. Okay. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find even one thing.
Yeah, I got another super chat from Senior Sticks for $2, and he says, What if they are New Jersey royalty or Ohio royalty? I think that was for you, Allison.
Oh. New Jersey royalty or Ohio royal? You mean like if they're like a Disney princess from New Jersey?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh,
They
that
cannot
might
be
be
Disney princess, but they can be other
it. Couldn't
princesses.
be worse than what's Disney's putting out now.
Yeah, Nova Fan 21 gives $1 and says, if 2025 was already in The Handmaid's Tale, I can't wait for them to react to the reality that the average man will be dating a robot and the hot men have the freedom to cycle between a lot of women. Well, the hot men, I guess you could say, are like the top men are already doing that with women, and women resent them for it. Women hate them for it because they're not choosing them. And if you point that out, they'll call you the pick me. But anyway, Matt, back to the article. Many people, even critics of the man panic, seem to assume that men are the only ones struggling to know their role in the world. No, nobody's doing that. They're just acknowledging that they also have a problem. In fact, all the people you're criticizing, you said yourself they did a land acknowledgement for women. And I know that Scott Galloway does because he does it every time he makes an appearance. He's like, well, women have problems too. Let me just lay it all out so that nobody gets me fired. Okay, now I'm going to say something about men, okay? In a November New Yorker article, Jessica Winter argued that women don't have the luxury to sit around worrying about their gender's unique purpose the way men longing for positive models of masculinity supposedly do. What a gift is really to have no choice in the matter.
Okay, wait. We can't let that stand.
Okay.
So women don't have the luxury of just hanging around wondering about their purpose. Yes, women haven't been subject to a society-wide narrative that they have nothing of worth and they only bring negative things and they are responsible for a social contagion, corruption just by their very presence, which is patriarchy, original sin. So, I mean, like literally feminists said, we're going to ruin men's entire career. Oh, why are men sitting around wondering what they're there for? I wonder, because you told them they were there for nothing, like nothing good. And they listened to you. All right.
Yep. All right. So, what a gift it is really to have no choice in the matter, she wrote archly. To have to move out of your parents' house, to show up for your shift, to change the diaper, not because any of it is gender affirming, but because life is full of tasks that need doing, and you are the person who does them. At least then you know who you are. But just as the culture's understanding of manhood has shifted, so too have ideas about womanhood, which of course influences the way young women see themselves. So wait a minute. What a gift it is to have no choice, to have to move out of your parents' house. So a woman not having to move out of her parents' house is the burden, where men are typically thrown out when they're 18 and they're just like, okay, it's time for you to go. Like that's a good thing. Like what if they're not ready? If a man can't move out for whatever reason, we actually have a pejorative term for that. We call it failure to launch. But when women don't, we don't say anything. Like I remember there are women who were like in their 30s and they live with their parents because they haven't met the right guy yet. And nobody has an opinion on that. Nobody has a negative judgment of that. So I don't know what she's talking about. Like it literally, women have been liberated to the point where they can just choose to do or not do whatever, and no one has an opinion. And now you're saying that liberation is a problem because now they're aimless. Okay. All right, I'll take it. Many of them are trying to understand whether they're expected to be a CEO or a mother of five, whether they value for their thoughts on their looks or their ability to support a husband. Who expects somebody to be a CEO? I know this is hyperbolic, but no. Actually, what's expected of men? Also, I think it's probably all those things, to be everything. I saw a video with the woman's ick list. It was ridiculous. Like, it was ridiculous. But anyway, that's just the way young adult minds work, Jay told me. People this age tend to think about what others believe they should do rather than what's really right for them. The latter, after all, isn't totally clear yet. One of Jay's therapy clients went to an Ivy League college, but now she's struggling to find a job and feeling like the successful women around her aren't the highly educated ones, but the trad wives and beauty influencers. Are you having a thunk about that? About going to college then? Well, I mean, are you this is like more of this like jealousy thing too. Have you noticed that there's a lot of comparing going on? Like, well, I have this
Yeah.
and this. These men don't, they have that. I have this and these women have that. It sounds like a you problem. Like oh
Yes.
God. Go ahead, Allison.
No, I'm agreeing. Yes. This is a them problem.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why
if
did I work
if your
so hard?
problems could be solved by stop coveting other people's stuff, maybe it is a you problem, not a patriarchy problem.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Why did I work so hard in school? Jay said. Her client wonders if this is what people want from me. Yeah, why did you? Maybe that would have been okay, but you don't want to admit that because that would mean you'd have to say, maybe I was wrong or maybe I made poor life choices.
Oh, someone in chat brings something up.
All right.
Acrophius says, hang on, women have no pressure to do anything, but earlier stated that pressure to perform disproportionately affects women. Which is it? Yes, you're absolutely right. Women have no pressure.
And all the pressure.
And all the
at
pressure.
the same time.
In any possible configuration of anything, women have it worse. See? Even if women had it perfectly wonderful in every conceivable way, they'd still have it worse because they didn't have it worse. There you go.
NovaFan21 gives $1 on Rumble Rant. Thank you. And he says, I'm sure the career insecurity is for doctors and lawyers, but I have yet to hear your cousin became a CEO and your book club isn't paying the bills. Yes. Your mother was a hamster. All right. Many of the young women she speaks with don't know what to prioritize, hitting the gas pedal at work or becoming a mom. Often they feel alone in these decisions. The men around them aren't pushed to think about how grueling it would be to balance work and family life. Oh my God, it's so oppressive.
Wait, how do they even know that? And why should they be pushed? Why should the men around them be pushed to think about these things? And you're just assuming what men are thinking about here. Alone in these decisions, the men around them, okay, just the men around them, not their partner? Like, this isn't even specified. Why would the men around you be thinking about the problems that you have with your life? Why the fuck would they care?
They still want men to take care of women.
They're just like, oh my God, I am here out in this restaurant and I see a table of men and they are not thinking about me and my problems. Why would they?
Yeah.
Like, I swear, like, this is just lunacy. The lunatics, the lunacy of this. Okay.
For sure. Okay. Okay. What young women are going through then is an identity crisis. So women are the ones really having an identity crisis right now. It's also a mental health crisis, but it's not typically recognized as any kind of crisis at all. Perhaps because it's a quieter one.
No, because it isn't a fucking crisis. Like, first of all, you have no statistics. All you have is a bunch of feelies. Oh, I feel. Well, great. That's wonderful. You can feel. The thing is that women feel like a billion things every minute, as far as I can tell. So why should we give a shit about any one of them? No actual hard statistics on any of this. Did you notice that? None.
Of course.
Just anecdotes and I feel. Right? Okay, so we're supposed to pay more attention to all of your vague disquiet than the actual men who are going into actual graves. All right.
All right. This population overall may not be happy, but it's a high-functioning one and therefore easier to ignore. Low trained as a medical sociologist. What?
What you think? It's a high. Okay. Young women are going through. It's an identity crisis. Well, I thought you just said that women aren't having an identity crisis. Didn't they just say in that one paragraph that women they just leave the house because they're just so pragmatic and practical. They're not brooding on the moors trying to figure out who they are like the men's. And now they're saying, "Oh, women are having an identity crisis."
Well,
That's
yeah,
the
of course.
crisis that
It's
women are
it's
having.
both of those things at the same time. Yeah, women
There
are
is no
liberated,
ontological.
therefore they're oppressed by their own freedom.
There is no ontological inertia in this article. She forgets what she wrote 5 sentences ago. It's like she's like, "Oh, women don't have any pressure. We aren't doing the identity thing. We're just so pragmatic. We got to go out. We got to pay those bills. Gone new to 9 to 5." And then she's like, "And the real thing, the real crisis that women are facing is a crisis of an identity." How does this get published?
I don't know. Maybe they run it through AI and it's like Chat GPT and it's really supportive.
It's not randomized enough.
Great. This is fantastic. Go send it to print right away.
This is not randomized enough. Put it through the AI randomizer a bit more.
Yeah.
Can we put any more contradictions in this? Can we make this a minefield where human thought goes to die? Yes. All right. It's ready for print. Okay.
Exactly. All right. Lowe trained as a medical sociologist, and she recalled saying, "Men die quicker, but women are sicker." Well, they said it, so it must be true. Women are more likely to endure many chronic illnesses and to soldier on with their pain unnoticed. Or maybe their turmoil isn't all that quiet. Perhaps American society is simply more tolerant of women's suffering because they always have. Men are dying. Deaths of despair. Men are dying in wars. Men die in the workplace. Women are actually. We just tolerate women suffering more, guys.
What she defined this as what was it? A single large room, a crowd of older men. Okay, so a small cottage industry. Okay, I think that's what she referred to it. A small cottage industry of people are actually talking about young men and the problems that they face, right? A small cottage industry. And also one of the things they lamented about has lost their sense of purpose and identity, which she then grabs onto as women's crisis. But a small cottage, so we have a small cottage industry. Some people, a very small number of people, have suddenly started to notice that there's problems in men, that men are facing deaths of despair, that men are dying. And they just started to notice. And what does she say to that? Perhaps American society is simply more tolerant of women suffering because they always have. Because a small amount of attention is going to issues that hit men so much more than women.
And I might add again, that attention that it's getting from this little conference thing is actually not sufficient. It's actually not at all productive, and it's intended only to get men back on the plantation. It doesn't actually want to address anything. And still,
it doesn't want to
this is a
recognize
problem
men.
for this person. Yes.
Doesn't want to recognize men as their own legitimate category of being. But yeah, that's too much for this person. Like and she even labels it a small cottage industry. A small cottage industry is now dealing with the massive amount of excess death due to despair that men deal with. And the fact that even anybody is talking about is evidence that American society simply doesn't care about women. There you go, guys. This was the gymnastics. This one line was where she did her double backflip and a handstand and everything else to arrive where she was going. The fact
she's basically making the case that women are the expendable sex.
Yes. Because we pay attention to men when they're in this dire state that's much worse than anything she's brought up about women.
I mean, it's mind-breaking. Okay. Okay, now she's going to back off a little bit. Hardship shouldn't be a competition. Well-being is not a zero-sum game for men and women. Sarah C. Narendorf, a social work professor at NYU, told me, everyone would benefit from letting go of strict traditionalist ideas about masculinity. Oh, just let go of your masculinity and we'll be okay. Take, for
No,
instance, the
what they mean
notion.
is when they say strict traditionalist ideas of masculinity is men need to let go of the idea that they add anything to society as men, that there's
Yes.
any value that men add to society as men. Even though I hate to tell you, but there's an evolutionary reason why men remain 50% of the population, despite being technically the genetic, reproductive bottleneck for the human race. It's because they do have a value, and that value is inherent to how they structure their behavior, what they focus on, what their interests and goals are, and even how they police each other. Right? All of that is it's load bearing. It is 100% load bearing for society. This is the payload, because the reason why they say this, they say things like everybody would benefit from men letting go of traditional masculinity, is because these women are mouthpieces for elites who don't want to have to deal with men setting boundaries. This is how you loot a society. In plain sight. You get men to look away, to police themselves over their own masculinity, to regard their own boundary setting and their own natural policing and their own natural expectations like, no, you really should be disciplined by the free market and stuff like that. They just start questioning all of that and start going inward, and they stop policing those boundaries. So we see gigantic webs of bureaucratic graft, commodities markets that destroy the commodities they market, and all kinds of other crap that's the result of men no longer properly policing other men and women ethically. And this is the actual payload. Hey guys, stop feeling like your masculinity offers anything in the world, because we don't want to deal with the fact that men are naturally more inclined to use altruistic punishment to enforce boundaries, because we want to break those boundaries and we want to steal everything. That's what these women are mouthpieces for, a kleptocracy. And men are the natural policers of rapine, of theft. Okay.
Yeah, they're the bulwark. They're the defense. That's why they have to be attacked.
Defanged.
So, yes. All right. Take, for instance, the notion that men need to be sturdy, stoic protectors, responsible for feeding a family, but assumed incapable of care work, play, or tenderness. Yeah, it's assumed incapable only by feminists. Yeah, by who?
Exactly. The only
The
people
same
in society who believe that men are incapable of care, play, or tenderness are women, are feminists. And they promote that idea because they say that men's relationships with women and with their wives and children are one of oppression and control and domination and brutality. Right? You are responsible for those attitudes towards men. Feminists are responsible for those attitudes towards men. That is not a traditional attitude towards men. Okay. I'm glad to clear that up.
Yep. Some figures in the men's movement have challenged that idea. Reeves has encouraged young men to go into more traditionally feminized fields such as teaching or nursing, to spend more time with their children, to model a pro-social version of masculinity. See, so now you see what she's saying. Some figures in the men's movement, and then goes to this Reeves guy. See that what they're trying to do, and I talked about this with Reeves and Scott Galloway and these guys that did this whole conference. They realize that and when they say the manosphere, they include MRAs. In fact, I think the MRAs are like the biggest obstacle for them, because we're not easy to straw man the same way like the red pill guys are. So they lump us all together. And then what they do is they say, well, there is a men's movement that's positive. And then they point to these guys because they have the approved opinions, the approved men's rights opinions stamped by feminists, right? And so they promote them as a men's movement while ignoring us. Because what we're not, I mean, at least for me, I will speak for myself only. I am not going to compromise on what I think is necessary and what I think we need to address. And I'm not going to go along with these toxic masculinity narratives, because that's at the heart of what the men's movement, this men's movement that they're promoting, has. That's why when they said, well, Reeves is one of the good ones because he wants men to go into more traditionally feminine fields, right? And of course, they never asked the question. Again, men are going to go wherever they want to go. And some of them will go into teaching and nursing. But the problem is, first of all, those industries are hostile to men. So they're not going to find a job as easily, especially if you want to be a teacher and you want to work with kids, because they've already pathologized masculinity to be predatory on children and oppressive to them and dangerous to them. They've already done that. So that's not going to work. And the other thing is, they don't ask the question, you know, when men pursue a career, one of the things they're considering outside of like whether or not it's something that they're good at or want to do is it something that women are going to like? And unfortunately, women don't want men that do feminine things. Women want men that do masculine things, and they never ask women what they want because they know that's what they're going to say. So it's a trap, and that's why I don't like these guys, because they're not helping. They're going to put men through a bunch of bullshit, and they're not going to benefit, and they're going to end up in debt just like the women are. You know, I mean, on the plus side, I'll say for men, if they're not going to college, at least they're not going to owe 6 figures, but women will. So anyway. All right. So some figures in the men's movement, like I said, but plenty. And again, pro-social version of masculinity suggests that masculinity is not by default pro-social. You see how they're modeling a new kind of never done before pro-social version of masculinity. Masculinity is social. It's pro-social. It was always pro-social.
Masculinity. In fact, even femophobia, what they term femophobia, is pro-social. It's policing men to not have the ethics of women. Because when men have the ethics of women, they don't create women. They create rapists or really broken men.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So anyway, but plenty of other pundits want men to find meaning in the same places that they used to, in the military, church, or fraternities, as breadwinners, which a growing share of men can't afford to be, as patriarchs asserting their supremacy over women. So
what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're saying. So if they say as breadwinners, which a growing share of men can't afford to be, why can't we have a conversation as to why that is? Like, why is it everything has become more expensive? Everyone complains about the cost of living and the cost of housing and everything, as though it's something that just came out of nowhere, and that there isn't some like, you know, pattern of like, I don't know, policies or the ways that like our education system has worked or the ways the government has operated that was inherently against the idea, or at least opposed to the idea of men forming families. And then you get the result of that, and they're like, wow, it looks like capitalism failed, guys, after they jury-rigged it to fail, after they threw a monkey wrench in it, you know? And now they're just saying, well, I guess you can't afford anything, which is also kind of a lie, because like a lot of people, a lot of men and women that do form families, they do fine. They just, you know, like they just live within their means and it's okay. So I don't even buy that anyway, but they're trying to make the case. You can't have like a condo on Fifth Avenue in New York City with 2 kids. It's impossible. It's impossible. So
I want to point out that feminism makes men responsible for everything in women's lives. Saying that men are responsible for everything in women's lives, but that could be a good thing, is not that far off from what feminists say, except they say men are responsible for everything in women's lives. Even men's thoughts are responsible for how women act, but that's a bad thing. And it's like, well, then if men are responsible in that way, your only hope is that men use it for good, because feminism says that women have no power to change this, unless of course they're constantly like a cat in a room full, a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. They're constantly on guard. But ultimately, if you're going to say that women have no real power, which is what feminism says about women in society, and that men control everything, then ultimately all you can do is make them benevolent tyrants, or hope that they are. And I'm like, I think the whole thing is absurd myself, but it follows. Like the men who are saying, well, men should take charge, but be nice to the women's. Well, that's basically follows from feminist bullshit. Like a feminist premises. And in fact, it's exactly what feminists are appealing to, despite saying that men are so horrible. They're doing nothing to actually put themselves in a position where they aren't having to appeal to men, even if they do so in a bitchy way. There's no exit strategy. I've never spoken to any single feminist who gave me any sense that she has an exit strategy. So leaving man's world is not going to happen because they're not even trying. Right? They're not even trying. And when they do try, when they do have some freaking feminist commune, it implodes in exactly the same way every time. It implodes into purity spirals and ostracization and cliques and like horrible behavior, right? So it's like, you're not leaving this world. So your only thing you're offering is a means to appeal to men to treat you better, right, feminists? That's it. That's all you have on offer. So why not just be like? And if you're saying that, if no way out, no way to gain control of over the world as a woman, and men control everything, then your only option is benevolence, even according to the feminist logic. Okay, I now cannot speak anymore because the cat has decided that I am to be rubbed upon. Okay.
All right.
The swirling has
I'll
stopped.
just keep reading.
Yeah.
At the symposium on young men last fall, I heard a lot of talk about how to reconnect men to traditional sources of discipline or community. Of 35 speakers, 5 were representing fraternities or related organizations.
No.
They outnumbered the legislators. But even in the one segment on what policymakers can do, panelists seem hesitant to suggest any structural changes. I'm a limited government guy, one equivocated when my college colleague McKay Coppins, the moderator, asked what single policy the speakers would choose to institute to help young men. Another meandered through a response about the importance of
narrative
feminism.
Shift. Stop paying feminism. Like, get rid of it entirely.
Yeah.
Narrative shift.
Well,
yeah,
that's
you know
the
what
thing,
that
though. I
means?
think she's saying, why aren't these guys just going full systemic change? Well, probably because, yeah, a lot of the people who are going to be at this conference are more on the libertarian side. And also, they probably also recognize that if you put in some kind of ministry of gender or something, it's just going to end up becoming a feminist bloated mess because it's going to go to women. That's why I always say, like, the government can't offer anything to men. All they can do is get out of the way. That's the best you can hope for, right?
Stop funding feminism, period. That's it.
Yes.
Oh, stop. Just stop funding it. Stop allowing feminists to define how men and women relate and who men and women are. When was it decided democratically to hand that important task over to a bunch of harridans? I don't recall being asked.
Yep. Moderating a different panel, Catherine John Lopez, a National Review editor at large, told a story about a mom taking her son to an amusement park. The boy said he didn't want to go on one of the rides, but when they got back to the car, he began to cry, saying his father would have made him get on. Lopez's conclusion was that men and women are different, that a father figure could have offered the kind of tough love push that a mother never could. And she wanted men to know, we need you. All right, well, that's nice. So, okay, but apparently this person, I don't know what you think about that, Catherine Lopez thing. Did you read that? Moderating a different panel? Did you hear me when I read it?
Yeah, I did. What did I hear about that? Yes, men do provide. They do provide something that women can't.
Yeah. Well, a boy that didn't want to get on one of the scary rides and the mom didn't take him, but then the boy was upset later that she didn't push him because he said that his dad would have, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I don't know why your father wasn't there. Sounds like you guys have like a co-parenting situation.
Mm.
But But let's see. And then she says at the end, she wanted men to know we need you. Okay, then this paragraph. Her anecdote was a microcosm of a stubbornly persistent mindset that men are meant to be tough, that boys run off course when that quality is not instilled in them, that women exist in an entirely separate lane.
And they 100% do. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's finish what she has to say.
Yeah, all I could think about walking back to my hotel later in the dimming light was the bizarre idea of forcing a frightened little boy into a roller coaster, and the sad fact that a movement meant to find a way forward is replicating so many of the patterns that have gotten us here in the first place.
What patterns? Like she had one commentator who said that. No other pattern.
And the boy wanted to go on the ride. He just wanted to be pushed to go on the ride. Like he wanted, basically the boy wanted to go on the ride. The mother just said, okay, or didn't want to go. He's like, I'm scared. I don't want to go on the ride. And the mother said, okay, we won't go. And then later, when they were going to the parking lot, the boy was crying because he didn't go on the ride. So it was like he wanted to go, but he was scared. And the mother just conceded. But the boy said, if daddy was here, he would have made me go. He would have pushed me to go. And therefore, I probably would have enjoyed myself.
Father wouldn't have let him sit in his fear. Right? He wouldn't have necessarily. He wouldn't have respected his fear.
He would have pushed him to go into the like an uncomfortable place because he thought it would be good for him. And the boy, on some level, understood that. And she is saying that, oh well, this is just reinforcing toxic masculinity.
Yes.
Like, do you want to grow up with a boy like the bubble boy? Is that what you want? So anyway,
well, again, like the real payload of all of this is that men can't possibly exist as a legitimate category that we should care about, and can't possibly have their own values and ethics that are necessary for a functioning society. Right? So if the boy wants something, he's going to have to face his fear to get it. That's the lesson the father is teaching him. And he probably knows his kid. He knows that the kid is going to be upset if he doesn't go on the ride. So he's going to be like, no, you're not going to use your fear. You're not going to let your fear make your decisions for you. That's a good lesson. You're not going to let it stop you from getting what you want. Right? Don't do that. That's a really good lesson. And she's right. It's a lesson that men teach better than women do, because I don't think women, as proven by this woman who wrote this article, don't understand that lesson. Right? Don't let your feelings get in the way of your goals. Good Lord, that if that woman heard me say that, I think her brain would probably implode. And 100%, women do exist in a separate lane. Okay, I've been on this project now for a week, and this project has been creating a way of looking at how men and women write. And I talked about it yesterday, but basically when men and women write, you are looking at a situation of complete freedom. You can say whatever you want. You have a blank page. Nobody's stopping you. It's just you and the blank page and whatever you want to put on it. So what happens is that men and women write their cognitive processes. They put it on the page. How they think comes out of how they write, right? And when you look over the entire corpus of human literature, there is strong sex differences between how men and women think, how men and women process their world, and what men and women focus on. Like it is really strong. There's only a few across like hundreds of books. There's only a few authors that are unclassifiable, and the classification system. And you guys will probably pick this up instantly. Men are operational. They look at the world in terms of things to operate on, things to build with, things to make something with, things to repair with. So they turn the world into tools to do something with. It's called the operational modality. Women read the world for social information. So they'll go into a room and they'll read who is allied with who, what they feel about them, where there's potential movement to, I don't know, implant a rumor or whatever. They read the relational field and they create a relational map. Men understand things in terms of building something. Women understand things in terms of topology, right? What's the relational topology here? And this is consistent. The only women who buck the trend are Emily Bronte and Ayn Rand. And the only men who buck the trend are Henry James and Sturgeon, I think is his name. I'll have to get you back on that. But for the most part, men and women do stay in their lane. And men's lane is focusing on material, on action, on doing. And women's lane is focusing on reading, interpreting, and mapping. Very different. Okay, and here's the other thing. Men can actually move more into women's lane than women can move into men's lane. Most women do not understand how men think. They don't understand how men approach the world. And in that absence of understanding, they've constructed a monster. But the other thing is, they don't understand how men think. They don't understand how men do, which means they can't replicate and they cannot replace men at all. In fact, I'm not even sure if they can understand them to the point of even being able to try. That's what's crazy about all of this. And I even tested female authors like Tiptree, who are supposed to be writing like a man. And in fact, Tiptree is a feminist. Her men that she wrote were cringingly bad. Like she wrote a novella called The Women That Men Don't See, which would more honestly be termed the men that women can't see. Because anyway, I won't get too deep into it, but just trust me on this. Women cannot access the operational modality. They can't see things in terms of what they do. They can only see things in terms of what they mean relationally. Okay, so maybe this helps to explain things. But when she says that women exist in an entirely separate lane, it is 100% true. Women do exist in an entirely separate lane. Men exist, they don't exist in an entirely separate lane. Men can actually understand women better than women can understand men, at least according to literature. All right, so I don't know. That was a bit of a squirrel. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
All right. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, they're definitely different. I got a super chat from Zeranx for 5, and he says, the boy saying dad would push him signifies how much time he spends with his mother. Yeah. And again, it's not, and it's interesting. I don't know if it was touched on, but it's interesting that the takeaway from that statement had nothing to do with like, well, what would the dad have done differently? Why was the boy, did the mother get on the ride with him or not? Like, these are like questions. Cause like the dad probably said, would have said, I'll ride it with you, son. And they would have gone on the ride together, which I'm sure the son wanted. And the mom probably didn't want to do that. So like, these are important questions to ask. Instead, we're just going to talk about masculinity. Tough. We have to change that. We have to neuter men somehow.
And
instead of like actually trying to address the issue.
You're never going to be able to. Like these are fundamentally different modalities.
Yeah, sure.
Like it's you would have to do something, and it's like the real problem is reading malice into something that's simply different. Like men are just different. They're not malicious. You look at Tiptree's writing, and it's awful. It's like the men are sexually predatory and she doesn't, but even though they're supposedly sexually predatory and everything about sexuality is just consumption and predation and meat, like, even though they're like that, the men are still providing and protecting for the women in the story, for the woman in the story. And she never pauses to think, well, where is that coming from? Like this dude is like wading out into mangrove swamps and getting himself injured to protect the woman. And Tiptree never says, I wonder why he's doing that. Nope, she just assumes it's just a baseline. Oh, it needs to get done. No, he doesn't really need to put himself in that much danger, right? He doesn't need to care about her physical well-being. This isn't an obligation on his part. He does it for a reason. And that reason is in a continuum with his sexual desire. And this is something that feminists, like, they just don't accept because they want to turn men into these ugly, ugly things that they just aren't. And it's unfortunate. But I thought maybe you guys would find it amusing that Ayn Rand was one of the few women who could actually cross modalities and write in a and Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, which is the talk of the town now. It's on everybody's lips.
Apparently it is. I don't know anything about it, but
yeah, no, the feminists got hold of Wuthering Heights and they turned possibly one of the few novels ever written by a woman that actually had genuine operative content. And they turned it into, well, I don't even know if she's a feminist. I bet she is because she works with
they ruined it, is what you're saying?
I don't know. I don't know if you ruined it. I can't even read that. I cannot read Wuthering Heights for reasons that I could explain, but I would need to explain a lot of writing terminology. But the movie takes a story which is about examining family dynamics to discover failure modes and turns it into absolutely what it wasn't, which was a romance. Because of course they focus on the possessive, destructive relationship between Heathcliff and Catherine. Missing the point entirely. All right. Now I'm squirreling, so I'll hand this back to you, Brian.
Right.
If you want to say anything.
I'm done with the articles. Done. We're done.
Yes.
I have you want to see that ick list video?
Okay, okay. Robert Jordan Zeppo says Ayn Rand's characters were placeholders for her ideas. I love her work, but her characters are paper dolls. And I put Anthem through instead of the other one, Atlas Shrugged. I cannot read Atlas Shrugged because you are 100% right about that. Go ahead.
I tried
Brian.
to watch the movie a while back, and it was like
it's unwatchable.
It was unwatchable because there was no real plot. It was people just regurgitating her ideas, and then like her ideas were fighting against like mainstream ideas, and I'm just like, this isn't a movie. This is a lecture.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem of women writing in an operative modality. Their writing is actually, I shouldn't say that, because Anthem, when I read it in high school, it was pretty good. I liked it. I thought it was something that I enjoyed reading. I'll put it that way. But when women write in the operative mode, at least according to the few women who do it, it makes almost unreadable fiction. I don't know why that is. I mean, when men write in an operative mode, it's like Hemingway and McCarthy and Jones and Lamore, and it's very readable. But the two women who write in an operative mode are unreadable. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna look at this. I'm gonna look at this. So let's do this. Okay. This is dating rules for 2026. Let me see if the sound works.
These are my 20.
Yes, it is. Okay. We'll just let this play. It's only a minute long.
Okay.
This is her ick list. This is where we are right now.
These are my 2026 dating rules. If you have kids or you want kids, you're cut. If you tie your shoelaces with 2 loops, you're cut. If you're a crypto bro, cut. If you can't read out loud, if you're sloppy drunk, cut. If you say espresso, cut. If you live at your parents' house still, cut. If you don't floss, cut. If you wear a sports jersey with another man's name on your back, you're done. If you haven't gone to therapy, done. If you watch the news a lot, you're cut. If you can't regulate your own emotions, cut. If you can't lead me in an airport.
Okay, do you know what she means by regulate your own emotions? She means when she abuses you, you don't swallow it.
Yes, of course. Yeah. If you don't, when you stand up for yourself, basically. Yeah. All right. She said, if you can't lead me in an airport.
If you don't like pineapple on pizza, you're cut. If you don't work out, cut. If you have a nicotine addiction, cut. And
she's cutting the same place on the freaking page.
I don't know. This is just a video, Allison. This is a performance. You know how these go. She's not. She probably didn't write anything down. This is just a. But she is making a list. I don't know.
Coke diet and not the one you drink, cut. If you play video games, you're fucking cut. If you can't build a fire and keep it going outside, cut. If you haven't solo traveled, cut. If you breathe with your mouth open, cut. If you can't build an IKEA dresser, you're cut. And if you can't back up a trailer.
Fuck off. Good Lord. I'm so fucking, I've been like, I'm so fucking done with women. And you know, I don't think that a man could possibly match my level of misogyny at this point. Because men, you guys got this emotional system.
Not misogyny, it's pattern recognition.
Okay, you got this hormonal system that sort of softens this. You're like, oh, I can change her. I can provide for her. I can make her change her stripes. I'm like, this is a fucking bitch. I don't even want her on my eyeballs for the time it took to watch that. You know, I'm just saying, it's like, I don't think you guys can match me at this point because men, they have this thing in them that makes them biologically primed to tolerate women. I wish we could get rid of it, but it just is there. It's probably why Al Bundy said that women hate, like, you know, I don't want to understand women. Women understand women, and they hate each other.
Yeah, and they hate each other. Yeah.
I understand women too much now, guys. I want to understand less just to get through the day.
Women need their own internet. like, can we just give them their own internet and then let them eat each other on that internet? Like a separate internet just for women. That's what I want. And they can just go drive each other crazy over there, and they'll never be able to blame. I mean, they'll figure out a way to blame men.
Yeah,
but like, yeah.
Acreus says there's a list that's approaching the 400 mark. Yeah, I went through it with Mike.
List, yeah.
I went through it with Mike. I think that the ick list may have been the watershed for me. It was like the moment where I'm like, this is, yeah, women, you're fucking cooked. After reading that, I'm like, I don't care anymore. It's not my responsibility to save women from themselves. It's not my responsibility to save them from the mistakes that they're making and the shit that they're putting out in the world. Not my responsibility. And I don't care anymore. I don't care about appealing to women. I don't care about them agreeing with me. I don't care. I have reached the final evolution of misogyny. Okay. Yep. I've gone super something. The final form. I am now the one-wing angel of misogyny. Okay.
All right. So that's it. We're done.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything further in the chat.
All right.
I despise soap operas and reality TV, but maybe that's just me. No, it's probably just an operational orientation. Okay. So this was the article. Young men aren't the only ones. And this is another thing that makes me despise. Well, I mean, let's face it. Most women are writing stuff like this, if they're writing anything, right? Men are going through all of these dire things that are leading them to die, leading to them to be in the grave, dead, right? They're going through all of this, but we need to focus on the fact that women may or may not have pressure, feel pressured, but also not feel pressured, because they're so much more awesomer than men who are succumb to social pressure. So women are both not being pressured because they're better than men, but also being pressured. And also women have to learn when they grow up that they're not all a young adult protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, that is even more important. The fact that we're not paying attention to these things is evidence that American society just doesn't care about women suffering, because there is a small number of people who are now noticing that men are dying. This is the fucking logic. Okay. I'm good.
All right. Any thank yous to give or anything? I don't know.
I
if
will
anybody
check. I will check.
Does that? Okay.
I'll check if there's any thank yous. Nope, not currently. But if you do want to make commentary, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way to send us a tip and a comment with that tip. And if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. Don't let my nihilism like stop you. I don't even think it's nihilism. It's just like at this point, I don't understand why women are so self-destructive. Like, there's absolutely no reason not to care about men and to try to redirect care towards women in the face of the problems that men face. There's no reason for this. And yet they still do it. Okay,
Yep.
Brian, I'm done.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and share the video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on this episode of Maintaining Frame, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.